Just wanted to touch base. I was sitting around thinking, human beings on this planet, I sense that many are at that precipice where they're starting to wake up and realize just how interfered with and heavily manipulated their own lives and they have become. And it's surely a shocking feeling to think that, yeah, we don't live a normal, organic human existence anymore. There's so many factors that either prevent things from happening or encourage the wrong thing happening that it's disturbing. There's a lot of false starts in the world, a lot of false hopes, and a lot of meaningless meandering that is just inevitable because of this focus on reducing things of significance and phasing people out of significance and relevance. It's a disturbing trend because without all this light in the world, what is it going to become? It will literally be hell. It won't even just be hell on Earth. If you get rid of all the high vibration sentient people, then it's just going to be hell, and that's it. And I think that we haven't all noticed the common trends and common denominators in our lives enough to speak of it. The lack of cues and the lack of observation is a self-sustaining thing because of just the level of weirdness, personal factors, all types of fear-based motivation to never do the right thing. It's all going to culminate and we're going to see a world that just doesn't function anymore. That's at a certain point. It really does blow my mind that things are still held together here in this city where I live in Winston-Salem. It's definitely odd and perturbing to think that this level of orchestration is keeping things flowing. It just blows my mind because I think we should have already seen many of these hidden deficits that are piling up. If we were to collect all of the losses in one room, then we'd have a big calamity on our hands. But it's all so spread out throughout the world, I believe. People who have been targeted by this type of life interference, it's all just been so intermittent, spread out throughout the world. But there certainly have been losses that one could attribute to this if they were to be able to correlate it. But it's one of those things. This whole thing was devised to have so much vagueness, no detail that's not interfered with, no seed of doubt that can't be cast. All of this is just a big smokescreen. It is a distraction to keep us from ever figuring out what the real thing is. And once you do figure it out, then odds are you're heavily targeted. They don't like that type of intelligence to be possessed by anybody, especially somebody who's motivated and brazen and willing to get the word out. That is what my spiritual ancestors did. They definitely got the word out. They didn't take kindly to oppression, and they always valued their spiritual health. So I think that that's a good precedent for this society, is just to see it as a learning opportunity and to acknowledge that the world is definitely internally fucked up and never going to be the same. But I guess people, whenever they've reached that point, they think the world won't be the same for me if I live on those terms now. I wouldn't say convenient to fall back on just our old standards, but it's just what we know. And people are not willing to learn to be different if it means that they have to change their own lives. The only thing that will change them is great motivation, which usually comes in the form of a universal reminder or an act of God, or perhaps karma actually playing a role again in the universe. Because karma simply hasn't been hitting the right people. I know that much. That's yet another clue that we're living in the backwards, upside down, where good people are constantly failing and miserable and having unforeseen problems that are completely unnecessary, that are just devised just to mess with us, just to reduce our resolve and ability to live through something stressful. That coupled with this repression and isolation that's being encouraged, it's oftentimes, for me, it feels preferable just to not be around anybody and to be able to think clearly. Because this is an attack on our ability to think, and if we do possess that ability to think, then they really don't want our thinking brain to be reaching people and captivating them or swaying them to our side. They don't want you to be a compelling reason to question this whole thing of this human life. They don't want you to have that spark that people can see, and they certainly don't ever want you to reach people deep down and to mean anything to them. This whole culture, or lack thereof, within this world is all self-contained, and it's all designed to keep us looking at the wrong things that don't mean anything, that don't connect in our brains to actually help us to form a big picture. There's no stopping what's going on in the world, this silent power structure and interference. There's really no stopping it. There's just things you can do to make yourself less of a target, and I've detailed those things in previous uploads, like skewy and doing like some social experiments for your own well-being to test the waters and see how intelligent or stupid your environment is. But you know, it's almost comical to me how obvious all of this is, and how clearly not human many facets of our human existence has become. You know, I've often compared it to we're living on Mars, but the stage is set to look like planet Earth. But it's really Mars. You know what I mean? We're not actually having a normal planet Earth experience anymore. Many people like me. But I do sense that light bulbs are going off, and there's going to be more and more people identifying the problems and acknowledging the weirdness. I can't not feel weird all the time. Yeah, it's become such a constant in my life that I feel normal to feel weird. So therefore, I talk about how I feel, which is weird. So that's how that goes. But I hope to see more people entering this uncharted water and trying to blend and balance what we know to be true and living a human life, like a normal human existence, as much as we can, as much as we're required to, at any rate. Seems like most people have a static brain. It's either one or the other. But I would try to use your gray matter to find the gray area and go from there. I just can't help but feel like our normal way of socializing will forever be affected. Certain things are always going to be taboo. There's going to be reinforcements and manipulative tactics that are going to prevent anything from hitting too much. You know, there are certainly human beings on this planet that I've communicated with that have agreed that this is not normal waking life. We're not in Kansas anymore, and we're going to have to do some different shit. But it's just the actual doing of different shit seems to be the hard part. You know, you're never going to really reach people on all accounts quickly, at any rate, but we're all on different timelines of the same thing, and we all perceive things differently and are living different lives. So, needless to say, my personal account of what life is won't line up with what you think necessarily, or Joe Schmo from down the street. You know, we all have perceived things differently. We all have different triggers, different afflictions, that sort of thing. So it's never going to be clear cut. There are some common identifying features and common denominators that we can point to, certainly. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what I'm getting at there. I mean, if you take a look around, it should be obvious. But anywho, I think that it's inevitable that there's always going to be a focus on the real and the normal. Real and normal is what the powers that be want us to focus on. But to be honest, if the planet Earth was out loud what it is deep down and behind closed doors, it would be Battlefield Earth. And if every human being had autonomy on this planet, it would certainly be a battle royale, I believe, at a certain point, where all logic and reason goes out the window and it's just pure unbridled emotion, leading to a large wave of violence. I mean, that's what would happen if the average human being knew exactly what I knew and exactly what somebody of high intelligence perceives. Then they would not be cool with being on this earth without retribution. So it's a fine line that we're all walking. You know, we can't really be our brother's keeper when we're constantly clued into the fact that our brother is our enemy. You know, so it's just a matter of time, I think, for people to wake up, get that distress call out to the world to let them know that this is not acceptable. There are some really sick, evil, diabolical things happening, and we can't really just always live our normal life. We're gonna have to incorporate what we know to be true and make a new mindset and lifestyle out of it at some point. Different strokes for different folks. I'm certainly not your typical person in that regard, so that type of thing appeals to me when it might not appeal to the average person. But if that type of thing does appeal to you, then I would suggest running with it, and perhaps even reach out if you want to coordinate, talk, and figure out this whole event, because this is a saga that is unfolding in my end, in my arena personally. It truly is. But I'm affected by this event much more than the average person, so your mileage may vary. But anywho, you have a great one.